Hello, scumbags, boys, girls of all ages. Welcome to a very off-the-cuff special Side Akbar edition of Vote of No Confidence. I'm Andrew Fantasia, and I am joined by Mr. Joshua Lucas once again. Hello, Josh.
Hello, and yes, my tail is between my legs, for everyone wondering. And for all of you scumbags that watched our debates, I have to hand it to Andrew. I mean, he got it right. This is absolute craziness. But yeah, this is kind of off the cuff. This is actually the first time I've actually spoken about the JJ news. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get going.
Same, yeah. And from what I hear, I'm seeing breaking news right now on my phone. Andrew Fantasia's debating skills were the reason Kathleen Kennedy made this decision.
Wow.
So yeah, it's all there in black and white.
Yeah, man, you better get some royalties on there because that's solid.
So Mr. Abrams is stepping in the director's chair of number 9. How does this make you feel?
Okay, this makes me feel like the Vader scene at the end of Sith. No! Like, I can't believe it. And, you know, it's funny because I've been having a lot of conversations ever since Trevorrow got off, right? We've been having all kinds of conversations. I talked with you guys about it. You know, I talked to a lot of my friends, the Star Wars fans out there, talked in forums, people on the Dead of Nerds. And it's been so interesting to hear people's different reactions to it. A lot of people that I spoke to were like, look, we definitely don't want JJ. And I kind of found that odd because although I definitely wanted Ryan more, it's not that I despise JJ or think that he'll do a bad job, but I think the problem with going with JJ is that it's indicative of what Disney has been doing as of late. And that's it. Like, the easiest way I can say is they're playing it safe. You know, they're hedging their bets. They're playing it safe. JJ is the least. I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of bugs me. Yeah. It feels like this is par for the course for Disney, and it's part of the problem. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now with it.
That's like, obviously, you know, if you watch Vote of No Confidence, you know that the sides we argue are chosen by a coin. And a lot of times we don't agree with what the coin tells us to fight for. And in the case of our last argument, that applies. I mean, in real life, I was not really keen on seeing JJ come back as much as I like him. It was just a matter of, if I had to pick between him and Johnson, I would have liked to see Johnson finish what he started, like Kylo Ren, you know? Yes. But now, since it is going to be him, it is going to be Abrams, rather. What I'm hoping happens is that we get Abrams in the director's chair, but Rian Johnson is involved fairly heavily in the writing process. That's what I hope, because right. The point that scares me the most is a point that you brought up during the vote, which was JJ was going to have BB-8 accompany Rey to Ahch-To.
Yeah.
Until Johnson set him straight and is like, dude, no. Like, I know BB-8's your baby and he's like marketable, but no, from a storytelling standpoint, that is not wise. And I'm just afraid now, like, has he learned from that mistake, or are we going to see a lot more of those little mistakes add up and give us something that we're going to, at the end of the day, be like, oh, I liked it, but I wish it was not that, you know?
Yes.
Is that going to happen?
You know, it's so weird. Like, this is just raw emotions kind of flowing in and out of me as I'm thinking. It's why I love talking Star Wars, right? As you were saying that, I'm kind of thinking of a scenario in which JJ sits back, you know, it's 2 years after this movie came out, and he's able to just kind of be really honest with himself. And I'm sure he knows that he made some mistakes. I'm sure he's also aware of the pressure that was on him, everything that was going on, you know, with Lucasfilm, with this brand that he loved, and, you know, Harrison getting injured and stuff. I'm sure he's just, you know, he's had time now to sort of digest it and, you know, talk about a redemption story. And not that he even necessarily needs redeeming, but like he really gave us par for the course, and he has the opportunity now to really close this trilogy up. And I think all the criticisms of JJ as a producer, as a writer, all of these things could come to a head here. And maybe this is like his moment. You know what I mean? Like, this could be his moment to come out and do something absolutely incredible. I think that, Ryan still did the majority of the heavy lifting for the story. I mean, we have not seen The Last Jedi, but one has to assume. Oh, that's why you won the debate. You knew. But no, we haven't seen it, but we imagine it's going to be really, really good and do a lot of heavy lifting for the story. So, there's some things that are lined up to which he could do a arguably much better job. And I get why Disney wants the guy. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense. It's totally safe. I understand that. My hope as a Star Wars fan is that if Jedi does go this bizarre kind of different way, that we get some of that flavor in episode 9. Like, don't just go back and do a retread. Don't do a safe move. Give us something very exciting and unexpected. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, you're right. What I want to see is, like, I don't want to see a checkerboard pattern. I don't want to see white, then black, then white again. I want to see 3 be a mixture of 1 and 2. So I want to see white, then black, then gray. I think all the best trilogies kind of do that. They take what was wonderful about 1, they add in everything that spiced it up in part 2, and then they give us a part 3 that's just this amalgamation of everything, and it's the final product. And if we take a step backwards, then it's like, why even have a 9 at this point? I'm hoping that what we talked about during the vote happens, which is that, like you're saying, Abrams is given a chance to look at what he did and be like, okay, now I'm not handcuffed by the fact that I'm making the first Star Wars movie in a decade. I'm not handcuffed with that stress or with that whole issue of I need to get new fans, I need to win back old fans from the prequels. None of that is on his shoulders anymore. And now he can just be like, cut loose and make like something really cool and something different and wacky and awesome and beautiful, at the same time ending what we have before. He's laid the groundwork now. Now he can, the path is there. He can just run on it instead of walking cautiously on it.
Here's the one thing though, man. Here, my mind goes right back to the last point that I made about Snoke. The bottom line is, it falls to JJ now. It falls to the mystery box writer to explain Snoke. You know what I mean? Like, and not that he has to wrap up that story. Snoke could make it out or past, or his mystery could be further explored in a novel or something like that. But like, we need, I believe, at that point in the saga, we will need more information about Snoke in order to understand like what he really wants and how that's in conflict with our characters. I think we're just gonna need that, and so I'm super concerned. So what do you think, man? Like, what do you think about JJ? Is he gonna be able to give us a satisfying Snoke story?
My hope is that Story Group or whoever was in charge of that has the Snoke answer tucked away somewhere right now, and it's already there. All they're waiting for is for episode 9 to open that, so that that work is done for JJ. He doesn't need to sit down at his computer and think up of, and then Snoke said, "Let me tell you about me." Like, he doesn't need to touch it. He just needs to like roll camera. And hopefully that scene, whoever has worked it out, has been written in a satisfying reveal kind of thing. Like, going back to the last episode we saw of Game of Thrones, the whole reveal of Jon Snow's parentage was a really nice, cool way of doing it. Yes, so like, there are cool, like, and most people watching that episode even knew what was coming. So there are cool ways of doing big reveals, even if a lot of the audience won't be shocked by it. And I'm hoping that the way it's written out is already, like I said, it's been tucked away in that box since 2014, when they came up with Snoke in the first place. And now all JJ has to do is literally, he doesn't need to construct something and put it in the box. He just has to open the box and say, "Here it is, world." That's why.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's funny. It's like, remembering back, I believe that JJ was actually intricately involved with a lot of that stuff. So like at first, it's my understanding, like if you read the art of The Force Awakens, which by the way, like as a Star Wars fan, I think that's one of the best like ancillary pieces of canon and just goodness that's ever been made so far, because you have to understand, like to your point, this is the first Star Wars movie in a long time. It's the first Disney Star Wars film. There was a lot going on here. And so at first, they literally had all these artists just doing whatever they want. There were vague ideas thrown around. Remember, they had the Jedi Killer, right? They had like Phasma was totally different. All these characters, like Finn didn't exist the way he existed. I think he was white or maybe even female or something. Like they had these ideas of story beats, and then they just had the artists just go. And then they would look at all the art and be like, okay, we really love this. Like, for instance, there was Vader Castle art that ended up being used, not in that movie, but in Rogue One. And then there was stuff that got used for the Inquisitors on Rebels. People were, you know what I'm saying? Like, people were like, oh, this looks dope. And Dave Filoni was like, that does look dope. I'm taking it down off the wall. You know what I mean? And so JJ was a part of that. So it's kind of interestingly, you know, we're talking about Snoke, and my gut tells me they do have something about Snoke figured out. But if what we are hearing about some of these writers right now doing these novels, and even Rian Johnson, if what we are hearing about what the story groups give them is true, then it's more or less like they don't really have it all figured out. They're more or less just being like, here you go, give us what you got, and then we'll take it from there. So I do not think that the story group necessarily like has a well-defined backstory for Snoke. You know what I'm saying? Like they might have a couple of different concepts that they're playing around with or something like that. Maybe Ryan, because Ryan said he didn't really explore it, but maybe he does in a way. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. But it's interesting that JJ will now be able to tighten all that up because he was there when they were just throwing stuff against the wall and having it stick. You know what I mean? That's kind of interesting. So maybe in that regard, he can pull it off.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, if they were smart about it, the Snoke solution could have had clues peppered in 7 and 8.
That's what,
you know, give us like a rewatch. You know, when everything's said and done, you can rewatch it and be like, oh my God, there's that thing that's in the background in Kylo Ren's ship, and that makes perfect sense because now we know Snoke is Panaka. So there's all these great little things that they could do if they had that plotted out at least a little bit.
And do you think they did?
I hope. I mean, they're getting paid a lot of money to write these things, and you know, you'd think that they would, you know, put their backs into it a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is like when I think about the story group, I think that what defines them, and this is maybe part of the problem with Disney. This is one of the things that people are saying, you know what I mean? And we're about to do a video over on my channel. I think the tone that we'll take on that video is more like about the concerns and about like the negative aspect of it. But one of the things is like JJ, he's this guy, you know, he's a part of the process. He was there with the writers group, but I think they more or less know what has come before. They're almost like trivia like champions, right, of Star Wars. I think that's how they got the job, got to where they are within, you know, Lucasfilm, but I don't think that they're storytellers per se, which is so fascinating. You know what I mean? Like you look at Pablo, you look at Carrie, you look at all of these guys. Their Star Wars level of knowledge is on another level. It's crazy. Like they would crush us in a debate or a trivia contest. Although we should give that a shot sometime. That'd be kind of fun. But I know, right? It can be awesome. But I am not sure that they have this figured out because I don't think that is the capacity to which they've even had to really work in. They're more like editorial. You know what I mean? They're more like an editorial team that keeps track of the continuity, not the people that are creating the continuity. That's kind of what my gut is telling me.
Yeah, you're right. They are they're more of absorbers of facts. They're like human holocrons.
Yeah, man, they are.
It's just a matter of like, here's the data, do with it what you will. I hope that they looked at this trilogy as a trilogy and not just movie by movie. I hope that they looked at it where, we're going to leave ourselves space to breathe. We're going to leave our character space to breathe. I mean, we're not going to write dialogue for Rey in the last 10 minutes of episode 9 because we want to learn how Rey comes to life, how Daisy Ridley brings her to life, and then decide, what would Rey say at the end of episode 9. But in terms of stuff like who her parents are and who Snoke is, considering how much of an emphasis they placed on the mystery of that, that's something that I think that they should have plotted out to the end of episode.
Yeah,
they should have looked at that and said, this is where this is going to stop. The middle can be whatever you want, but get it here at least.
You're probably right, especially because one of the things that's so important is not tarnishing the legacy of Sheev. So they have to leave the Palpatine because it's tied into Vader. Like, it's so weird. It's so hard what they're actually trying to accomplish here with Snoke because he has to somehow be a bigger baddie than Palpatine and Vader, and yet leave their legacy intact. Because all of everything they're doing is predicated on the fact that getting the Emperor out of the way and getting Darth Vader out of the galaxy was a big freaking deal, right? So their whole new thing is based on that. They got this dude, this Snoke dude, who's the new kid on the block that's got to have way bigger weapons. He has to arguably be way more evil. So you're right. Because of that, they probably did think it through, at least as it regarded to that. You know what I mean? As it regarded to Sheev and all that. So we're hoping.
I know, I hope you're right. I hope it's a very well plotted out course. I mean, at least lay the tracks. Let the roller coaster do whatever bumps you want, but lay the tracks. A good example of this that I can think of that might work to our advantage here, who knows, is Spider-Man. Now, you're a comic book guy, so I can rattle on about Spider-Man for a bit, and I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. In the comics, we got one of arguably Spider-Man's biggest foe in the Green Goblin. And we got Norman Osborn, and he's he becomes a Green Goblin. He has his lab experiments and everything, and he makes Spider-Man's life a living hell. And in the comics, he's a big deal. He's pretty much the Joker to his Batman. I think it's debatable between maybe him and Doc Ock, but Green Goblin's a solid arch enemy. And then at some point down the line, I think in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, they came up with the idea of the Hobgoblin, who's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And he sort of, looked at what the Green Goblin did, and he was kind of like this weird, mysterious charlatan. For a while, you didn't know who he was. He was in this mask, and it wasn't like Osborn where you kind of saw it happening. Hobgoblin just kind of appeared with the equipment of the Goblin and took it under his wing, and he was a very different Goblin, but he still posed a threat. But at the end of the day, everybody still remembers Green Goblin.
Right.
If if Palpatine is the Green Goblin and Snoke is the Hobgoblin, you can have the same kind of thing happening here where it's okay, Snoke just appears. We don't know much about him, but he's got all of the Emperor's old toys and he's sprucing them up and he's doing all these crazy things with them. And now they're going to bring him to a place where he becomes iconic in his own right, without tarnishing the legacy of the Green Goblin. Mm. But then you have the Spider-Man animated series in the 90s, where they swapped it out and Hobgoblin came first.
Right.
So there's always wiggle room, is the weird metaphor I'm getting to here. There's always wiggle room, but at the end of the day, if the storytellers know how X leads to Y leads to Z, and I said Z for all my American homies out there, you're welcome. If they know how X leads to Y leads to Z, then Z is going to be satisfying. But if they just make X and say, we'll worry about Y when we get to Y, that presents that, that gives me cold feet.
Yeah, that's fair. As far as them thinking out the trilogy, the only thing that I think might have been the case was the whole Harrison, Luke, Leia trilogy, where they were going to do that focus point. And so now that she's not there, it's oh man, what are they going to do with this episode 9? Because that has to be at least part of the problem with all of the trouble that episode 9's going through. So it's going to be really interesting to see him come in. And what if that's the only foundation that they had from a story point perspective? You know what I mean? Like the Snoke thing, you're probably right. Like they figured it out at least to a degree, but maybe the majority of the movie was going to be focused on Leia and her relationship with Ben Solo. Because I tend to believe that Kylo is going to be more or less the main focal point for our not hero's journey, but like Vader's journey. He's like the mirror of Vader, right? And so, in the prequel sense, we're watching him fall, even though, he's already killed his father and done probably the most horrible thing we've ever seen in Star Wars, killing our beloved Han Solo. So, I don't know, man. I just think that the odds may be stacked against him. Like if that was the way they were going to go and she's gone, I don't know what they're going to do, because now he's taking over writing duties as well. So he's going to co-write, but that means probably more scripts. I mean, he's going to come in, look at what they've got. He probably is already aware because he was probably producing, but he's going to look at it. He's going to try to figure that out. And I don't know. I have a lot of trepidation. This is not the move that I wanted because it doesn't fill me with a bunch of confidence. It doesn't make me feel completely okay with where we're going. And this kind of means even if The Last Jedi is increíble, which we think it will be, there's still plenty of reasons to be concerned about Episode 9. You know what I mean? I hate to say that, but it is true. And, look, we have the problems with Han Solo still going on, and we haven't heard too much about that. But it's like, it's only going to take a couple of small mistakes here and there to begin to have the snowball effect for what's going on with Star Wars. A lot of people think right now, and I was actually just writing an article about this, that like Star Wars is like at this untouchable place right now. And I don't know. I just don't know. I think that there are a lot of opportunities for them to catch some snags and to screw this thing up. Episode 9 is so important. I don't know, man. I'm filled with some trepidation.
Yeah, well, I feel you. I mean, they're 2 for 2 as far as I'm concerned, but they're still walking on a razor's edge. I mean, it's so easy to mess up something, especially when so many people love it so much. Yeah. I mean, it's like a wedding. We can't wait for it. We're gonna love every second of it. But if one little thing goes wrong, in our minds, it's a disaster. So we've really got to, I guess, just hold our breath. I think at the end of the day, we have to watch The Last Jedi, and then once we walk out of that theater with whatever knowledge we're gonna have, then we can look at this and say, okay, I'm more confident, I'm less confident. At least it gives us more ammunition either way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like at least we're not lost in the void of not being sure.
No, you're absolutely right. And one can really hope that The Last Jedi serves to kind of do the heavy lifting of the story. Like it's explaining the whole Luke Skywalker thing. So like that is a huge point of this entire film. Like what the heck is going on with Luke? And we will get that answer. That will set us up for the final act, which we have to believe it's either Luke and Rey. Like, have you heard the rumor that it literally ends with Luke showing up in the throne room with Snoke, and that's it? They're just going to leave us there, like.
That's a rumor that's going around. Like he walks in the throne room.
Yeah, that's a rumor that I had heard a couple months ago. That the third act is literally going to end with like that big ship that Snoke has, like. Rey and Luke will end up there, and they'll fight their way through it. And at the very end, Luke confronts Snoke, like in the flesh. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but like essentially from a story perspective, that makes sense for the thing to happen in the last movie, right? I mean, like we have to have resolution. We got to beat the baddie. So
yeah,
whether it's Kylo Ren or it's Snoke or it's both of them, Luke and Rey and Finn and all of our heroes have to have a win. They have to walk away, saving the day, so to speak, in the third one. So, I don't know.
That rumor, it's interesting. It's a little bit scary, but it does. Like I've always been of the mind that The Last Jedi is going to end with a cliffhanger that's going to make Force Awakens look like Child's Play. That's always just what's been going through my head. Like it's going to be something that makes us go, no, don't end it there. And that whole throne. I'm picturing like when Aragorn walks through the two doors at in the two towers, and he pushes his way through. Like I'm picturing Luke doing that. Like, what's up, Snoke? And then like,
Yeah.
Like I don't know how abrupt this ending's gonna be, but I'm picturing that like a theater full of people screaming when this ends, when it like wherever it does. So that rumor doesn't sound too far-fetched to me, if that's not a scary thing to say.
And like that's essentially you're leading up to this. You're having this crazy lead up, and then it takes over, and then it's gonna be JJ, and then Luke's not gonna speak or have his lightsaber out. He's just gonna look pensively at Snoke. 2.5 hours. No, how do we let this happen? We can't let JJ direct this movie.
Get started on that live stream of you screaming for 2 years, because that's gonna happen.
Yeah, dude, I gotta get that set up. Holy crap! I'm gonna need a lot of, I guess, mouth pill thingies to make my voice better.
Well, it's
cough drops. That's my man.
Cough drops. Yeah, you're gonna need to stock up. Well, it's gonna be crazy either or. I mean, like we can only wait and see. But until then, whether you're on board or not, looks like JJ is, my fellow senators. So chime in, let us know what you think of this. Some of you clearly voted, because we have a person in that director's chair. So let us know. How does this make you feel? Are you scared? Are you happy? You aroused? I'm a little bit aroused, but that's always me. Josh, where can everybody find you?
Well, they can find me at the Den of Nerds, which we're going to sit down and do a video. So, look, after this, we're going to go talk a bunch of crap on Disney and JJ and Kathy Kennedy on my channel with James. So if you want to check that out, go over there. But, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice. And you can find me on Facebook at Andrew Fantasia, and that's about it, because I'm kind of a recluse. I'm mysterious like that. I'm kind of like Luke, except not as handsome. But anyway, that's been Vote of No Confidence Side Akbar edition. JJ Abrams, for better or worse, you're on board, sir. I wish you Godspeed. That is quite a tall order you got there. And Josh, I'll see you next time, buddy, and I'll see the rest of you next time on Rebel Scum Podcast or Vote of No Confidence, whatever comes first. Cheers.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.